Welcome everybody to RGTV. My name is Kelvin, and today I will be reviewing X-Men The Last Stand. X-Men The Last Stand is the sequel that everyone wanted after the phenomenal X2 X-Men United, but unfortunately X-Men The Last Stand, to mostly all the fans and generally everybody, is a disappointing film. Here's the problem with X-Men The Last Stand. We all know that Bryan Singer is the director of X-Men and X2 X-Men United, and everyone expected him to direct X-Men The Last Stand. But the problem with X-Men The Last Stand is Bryan Singer ruined two superhero films in the year of 2006. Number one being, he ruined X-Men The Last Stand by deciding to leave the franchise, not directing X-Men The Last Stand. And the second film he ruined is Superman Returns by deciding to leave X-Men The Last Stand to direct Superman Returns. Because Bryan Singer did not direct X-Men The Last Stand, we got a different director, and that director is Brett Ratner. The only movies I can think of right now that Brett Ratner directed is the Rush Hour trilogy, which I personally love the Rush Hour trilogy. I find them funny. I grew up watching those films, and I still love them to this day. Even though they're not the best films in the world, but for what they are, they're still enjoyable films to watch and very funny. X-Men The Last Stand is directed by Brett Ratner and is the sequel to X2 X-Men United. And the story of X-Men The Last Stand is the government has found a way to cure mutants. And there is this mutant boy, basically, he has the ability to take a mutant's powers away from them. Kind of like what Rogue is. You know how Rogue touches someone and like she takes their mutant ability? Well, the difference with this boy is if you go anywhere near him, he suppresses your mutant gene. So basically, if you're like 5 feet away from him, you can't use your mutant powers regardless. So the government used this mutant boy to develop a cure, a permanent cure to cure mutants that wanted to be cured. Some people are with it and some people are against it. One of the problems with X-Men The Last Stand is they have this story of the cure, but then they also have the story of the Phoenix story in this film, and unfortunately both of these things just do not work in the film. Now, you guys know I like to do my reviews with the pros, the cons, and then I do a recap and I give my final thoughts or my overall rating for the movie. So let's start off with the pros of X-Men The Last Stand. I gotta say, no matter what anyone says, I will always enjoy the performances in X-Men The Last Stand. I will always love Hugh Jackman. I will always love Kelsey Grammer. I will love Ellen Page. Famke Janssen, I hope I said her name right. Patrick Stewart, Ian McKellen or McClellan, however you pronounce his name. I don't mean to be disrespectful or anything. Right now I just can't remember how to pronounce his name. And all the other great actors and actresses in the film. You cannot deny the performances by these actors and actresses. In X-Men The Last Stand, we are introduced to a lot of new characters, but there are three specific characters that I really liked in this movie. Beast, Angel, Shadowcat. Now, I know for Shadowcat or Kitty Pryde, we've seen her in the previous two X-Men films, but we did not get a permanent actress to play the character. And X-Men The Last Stand is the movie where we actually get to see Kitty Pryde do things, and she is portrayed by Ellen Page, which I'll never forget being 12 years old, seeing this movie for the first time, having the biggest crush on Ellen Page when I saw her in this movie. And I gotta say, Ellen Page will always be one of my favorite actresses, but also she did a phenomenal job playing Kitty Pryde in X-Men The Last Stand, and I really did enjoy her performance because she is very believable for her character. Angel, anyone can relate to Angel for the simple fact that, alright, he comes from a rich family, and unfortunately, his dad does not like mutants, and he becomes a mutant. Who can't relate to that? I know we're not mutants and all that stuff, but just like, well, you're becoming something that your rich father or mother doesn't want you to be, so that makes sense. Beast is relatable because he's very smart, lovable, likable, relatable, not disrespectful, very kind to others, but he also has that look where people won't accept you, but he is happy for who he is and all that good stuff. So I gotta say, I really enjoyed those three new characters we got in this film. Unfortunately, All the other new characters we got in this film, they didn't really have any affection on me. I really didn't not care for them at all. But that's just how I personally feel. The universe being expanded in X-Men The Last Stand. I think one of the reasons, not even think, I know one of the reasons why I like this movie is because of all the characters in this film. Even if a lot of them didn't get character development or a lot of screen time, I just really enjoyed seeing New Mutants in the film, seeing them use their abilities. That's something I really enjoyed in this film, and I can't deny that. I like seeing more mutants in the film, and it was just very enjoyable at that age for me at 12 when this movie released to see New Mutants. And till this day, I still like all the mutants that are in the film. If you guys see my previous 2 reviews for the X-Men films, you guys know that I don't like, well, I just don't think Halle Berry is not the right actress to play Storm, but she's not the best or worst actress to play Storm. She's in between. But I gotta honestly say, I really liked Storm in this movie because I felt like for once she actually meant something in the film and she was actually doing things in the film. For one, she flies. 2, she feels more like a leader, obviously, because I think in the comics or the anime series, she's like second command next to Scott, who is the leader of the X-Men, but unfortunately dies in this movie, which I'll talk about that later in the review. But Storm feels like a leader. She, it feels natural, and she's given stuff to do in this film, which I really enjoyed. And I gotta say, I did like Halle Berry in this film, even though I would not have her. She wouldn't be my choice basically to play Storm, but I gotta say I did like Halle Berry more in this film, and I really appreciate that Brett Ratner gave Storm more screen time and actually made her do something useful in the film. In X-Men The Last Stand, I gotta say, the humor is funny in this movie, in my personal opinion. I know not everyone likes it, but some of the corny stuff actually made me laugh, and there are things in this movie that just makes me laugh. So, when a movie has humor in it, especially in a comic book film, that's always a plus for me personally, as long as the humor works, and for me, the humor works in this film. Also, another thing that works in this film is just the action, man. The action is just so good in this movie. I don't care what anyone says. Like, for example, when the X-Men go to the Alcatraz Island and they fight off Magneto's Brotherhood army, so, to stop them from destroying the cure and all that stuff, or the humans. I gotta say, I really enjoyed the action in that part where we get to see Iceman go against Pyro. Seeing Beast in action was phenomenal. Wolverine, Storm, Kitty, it was just all great overall. So the action in X-Men The Last Stand, till this day, I feel is still very good and very enjoyable to watch. As we all know, every movie that has a positive will also have a negative. And I've stated this before, but Bryan Singer really did ruin this film by leaving the franchise and choosing not to direct X-Men The Last Stand. So that's something that just, after seeing X-Men Days of Future Past, directed by Bryan Singer, you will understand that X-Men The Last Stand could have been the best superhero film for its time. It could have been a lot better, but Bryan Singer left the franchise. Now, I think one of the biggest flaws for this movie is when Cyclops and Professor X died in this film. Now, I understand why Cyclops died, because obviously Bryan Singer took James Martin, who played Cyclops in the X-Men films, and took him for Superman Returns, which I don't really understand why Bryan Singer had to take him, because he could have just had another actor play a character that James Martin played in Superman Returns, but he just took him. And I'm not going to lie, I was really attached to Cyclops in the films. I really liked his character, and I loved the actor who played him. And that's understandable, but what really killed the film for me in a way is Professor X dying. The movie just felt different after he died. It just didn't feel the same. And I understand that the scene is supposed to be very emotional and powerful, which for me, it is that, because I cried when I saw Professor X die. But at the same time, it kind of killed the film for me in a way. So I really did not enjoy seeing Professor X die in X-Men The Last Stand. Where is Nightcrawler? Nightcrawler was so awesome in X2 X-Men United, and you're not going to use him in X-Men The Last Stand? If anything, one of the reasons why X2 X-Men United was so awesome was because Nightcrawler was in the film. And to not put him in X-Men The Last Stand is like a major letdown, or a downgrade for that matter, for this film. And it's just like, wow, why would you not use a good, lovable, likable character like Nightcrawler in this film? The Danger Room. The Danger Room, at first when I saw this movie, I liked the Danger Room, but as time passed on, why was the Danger Room there to begin with? And on top of that, why did we get a Sentinel in the Danger Room? It's never established in the previous films that they come across Sentinels or even mention Sentinels, so did Professor X design the Sentinels? Did the X-Men design the Sentinels? Who made them? Who designed them? So that's just something that just always threw me off for this film, for X-Men The Last Stand. Another thing about X-Men The Last Stand, why are the mutants classified? As you see in the film, Magneto is a class 3 mutant. Jean, with the Phoenix, she's a level 5 or class 5 mutant. I just never understood that. It's never been established in X-Men or X2, X-Men United. And if you were going to use something like that, all we needed was a few lines in the movie as to why they started using that in the film. That simple. Same thing for the Danger Room. Now, one of the things about X-Men The Last Stand is that the tone and the movie just feels different overall compared to the first two X-Men films. I always say this, but X-Men The Last Stand feels like a different universe of the X-Men films for some reason. It just doesn't feel the same. It doesn't feel right. And that's something that kind of bothers me about X-Men The Last Stand. Is just it feels very different. Now, one of the things that people really looked forward to was the fan service for X-Men The Last Stand. For one, the Sentinels. Two, Iceman turning into ice. But the problem with X-Men The Last Stand is the fan service just does not work in a film for X-Men, especially with the tone and the presence and how everything feels in the X-Men films. And unfortunately, it just does not work in this movie. And the last two things I would like to mention for flaws is the writing, I feel, is lazy in this film. And some of the dialogue is just very bad. For example, when Magneto talks to Wolverine, when Magneto's making his speech to the brother, he says, "I can smell your adamantium for a mile away." I just found that to be very corny and I just didn't think it worked in the film. And the movie did have bad dialogue, which I just feel like put the film even more down. So overall, X-Men The Last Stand, I still believe it's not bad as everyone makes it seem like. I feel like for what it is, the movie is still enjoyable. It has good action. The story is but, you know, it has new characters, likable characters. And for what it is, and for Brett Ratner directing it, I feel like X-Men The Last Stand is a pretty decent comic book film. It is a disappointing film, however. But for my rating, I'm going to have to give X-Men The Last Stand 2.8 out of 5 stars. It's still an enjoyable film. I own it. It's coming in the mail tomorrow on Blu-ray. It's still good. It's not the worst film I've seen, and it's not the worst comic book film I've seen. It is enjoyable for what it is, and it's a good film for what it is. So thank you very much for watching. Comment down below. Let me know what you think is the best X-Men movie in the trilogy, the first 3 films. What did you like most about X-Men The Last Stand, and what did you dislike most about X-Men The Last Stand? Thank you very much for watching, and you guys have a nice day.